Okay, so let's look at this example of a function. Let's see what the domain and the range are going to be. So again, the domain is the values, the set of all values that we can put into the function. So all values of s. Now, notice that this is a square root. So remember, square roots cannot be negative. You cannot take the square root of a negative number. Okay? So the radicand underneath cannot be 0. Okay? So the domain of this thing is restricted by this has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So we have to have x, or not x, s. So the value here, right? So this has to be greater than or equal to 0. So let's do that. So that means that s has to be what? Well, let's put it equal to 0. Hold on. So here. Well, if we solve for this, we get s is equal to negative 3. Well, if s is equal to negative 3, that's okay because we get 0. But what happens if it's greater than negative 3? What if it's negative 2? Oh, hold on a second. Sorry. This is positive 3. Positive 3. Okay. Because if I add s to both sides, I get equal to 3. Sorry. So now, s is equal to 3. If s is equal to 3, I get 0. What if s is greater than 3? What if it's 4? Then I get a negative number. But what if s is less than 3? Then it's okay. Okay, so in other words, this has to be greater than 0, and if I add not 5. I need a cup of coffee. So that means s has to be less than or equal to 3. That's the domain. So the way we would write this using set builder notation, we could write it this way, that's fine. Or we could write it the set of all s such that s is less than or equal to 3. And that's the domain. Okay? Now, what about the range? What about g of s? Well, what's the range? Well, g of s, well, obviously, if I'm using values of less than 3, this is going to be 0, less than or equal to 3. It'll be 0, right? But what happens as I get smaller and smaller and smaller values? This is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger positive. So this thing is going to start at 0, that's the smallest it can be, and go off to positive infinity. So that's the range. So again, just make sure you know the domain, because the domain controls the range. Here, any negative numbers will give us an imaginary number. And so we're not dealing with imaginary numbers. Okay, so we can't have negative numbers under the square root. Okay? And that's it. Have a good day.